And so that's where we're at now. We have these books that we consider to be special, and they're compiled. But the question is, are the books and the texts that we read today the same as they were then? Some like to say, oh, it's like a game of telephone, that through the passing on and passing on and passing on, through partial manuscripts, or maybe even just orally, just word of mouth. How can we be sure that we have the same text today? So the question is that an accurate concern, or what does the history of the Bible's translation and passing on look like?
I think the transmission of the biblical materials is I think a part of what makes it more reliable, not less reliable.
Hmm.
And yes, there are many pieces of the Bible. Manuscripts are not, we don't have many complete manuscripts. So we've got pieces of manuscripts, and there are some theologians who are working very closely with those manuscripts. I'm not I've not done much of that work. I don't know that I'm suited for that kind of work. It's very technical kind of work. But there are thousands of manuscript pieces of manuscripts that go into the compiling of a text of the biblical materials. So that's what we would have today. So you would have actually there's several texts of the Old Testament materials, several texts of the New Testament materials, and those are created by people who are looking at all of that evidence, all of them working as best they can to get back to as close as we can to what those original materials were. So part of the complicated part of that is that we have none of the original manuscripts of any of the materials of the Bible.
Mm.
So the process of transmission of manuscripts through the ages has, it's a fascinating kind of process. But you have some differences in manuscripts of, say, for the Gospel of John, because of that long kind of process. But thousands of manuscripts and pieces of manuscripts that go into the creation of such texts, and it really is a very reliable, very strong process. And by the way, you can look back to say the 15th century, to the works of Shakespeare, and there are some of the writings of Shakespeare. There are only a few copies of them that come from that period,
Mm.
and you have much more evidence for all of the materials in the Bible than you do for some of those works of Shakespeare that were,
Mm.
that was 15th centuries after the last of the New Testament materials were written.
Wow.
So that we have manuscripts that date back so far. So when the Dead Sea Scrolls were
Mm.
discovered in 1950 in southern Israel, once those manuscripts were examined, it was discovered what they were. It advanced our knowledge of the manuscripts by a significant period of time, by hundreds of years,
Mm.
just in those manuscripts. So textual critics, they're called, these people who are working with the text, they're always working to try to get back to as close as we can to those original materials. And I think we can say with a great deal of confidence that we're really close to that. So we
Mm.
can say with a strong sense of confidence that we're really close to what those original materials were,
Mm.
from from the earliest materials of the Old Testament to the last of the New Testament materials that were written.
Mm.
So that wealth of evidence that's out there to support it, when if you look at the history of writing through the world, there's no other writings anywhere that have the kind of support that the biblical materials do. The
Wow.
kind of work that's happening in textual criticism, it's not happened and is not happening in any other
Mm.
materials that are written. So more work has been done here. More work continues to be done here, and it really is a very reliable process.
Mhm.
When we
I think that's the awesome part that you're talking about, that when you compare the manuscripts and the careful transmission of the biblical text compared to any other text, like even like the Odyssey or Plato's writings, is that the number of manuscripts that we have is an incredible amount compared to these other sources. And you even mentioned Shakespeare, so that kind of stands out to me.
it
Incredible to
really
see the
most
accuracy.
most of the materials of the Bible really is a lot of materials, a lot
Yeah.
of manuscript evidence. I mean, thousands of
Mm.
manuscripts,
Wow.
um, from different places. Not all of them in Israel, but other places as well. The ones that come from the Middle East are usually regarded as more important.
Mm.
The ones that are closer to the writing date are more important.
Mm.
So there are things that help us to weigh those manuscripts in regard to their importance. But
Mm.
um, but yeah, so very reliable texts of the biblical materials.